You have a powerful desire, confidence or faith that it can happen and that it will happen. And that gives you the grounding. That right there is the core of it. But then I start talking about, a couple of other nuances. One is, at the same time, if you can do it, be totally grateful for things just as they are right now before you get your powerful desire fulfilled. But in other words, you're saying to the higher power, I want this at all costs, but you know what? I'm totally grateful for what I have right now. Thank you very much. This brings a feeling of surrender, a feeling of what I call indifference as to whether you ever get what you want or not. So you're essentially saying, thy will, not mine, O Lord. This is what I want. But if you don't want it for me, I'm fine with that. As a matter of fact, I don't even want it. If you don't want it for me, I take it all back. Total indifference to it. This is Christ in Gethsemane. It says Abba, which is a familial name for father, like Papa or Daddy. Abba, to you all things are possible. If it be thy will, take this cup from my lips. But if it's not your will and I must drink it, thy will be done. Then we get out of this core, what I think is the core of this seeking that I would be talking about, the four cornerstones. That's the power. That's the nuclear reactor. If you're not doing that, then a lot of what else you're doing is secondary to the point of possibly not being relevant. So, but we'll get into what can be done. What can you do more or less externally? Now we've talked about the internals, the internal engine. What can you do externally that might facilitate a speeding up or that might prove fruitful in this endeavor? And some of these will be familiar, some of them might surprise you. But of course, absorbing the teachings, from everywhere, teachers, books, videos, wherever you can get it. What's out there already? What's been written about this? Who's saying what about it? Does it resonate with me? And you're doing your research. You're doing your due diligence. You have to do that. I mean, sometimes realization will happen to people who aren't necessarily even looking for it. Sometimes, but that's not prescriptive. Somebody that wants to do it but isn't having it happen to them in their normal life, like for instance Norio. Norio was not on a definite path. He had questions, which is why it probably happened. He had questions that could only be answered by a direct experience of the answer. Couldn't be answered intellectually. Could only be answered by a direct experience. Those are the kind of questions you want to hold in your head. Those are the kind of questions you want to ask. What's really going on here? Who or what am I really? There's no intellectual answer to that. It has to be a direct experience of that in order to be satisfied with it. So those are the kind of questions we need to ask. But as we're trying to do this on purpose, when you're talking about, well, if you're just starting from scratch, or if you're just coming out of nowhere and you're not getting any help, and you think this is something you want to do and you want to do it on purpose, what's prescriptive? I mean, some people wake up after hitting bottom as an alcoholic, but that's not prescriptive. That's not a good strategy to pass on to people. So what is a good strategy to pass on to people? There's some tried and true things that you can put out there and some other things that you can kind of play with. But I think it's important to have some sort of a strategy, rather than just flying by the seat of your pants. What am I really doing here? Where is my time best spent? If this is what I want, and I only have X number of years, and we don't know how many of those are. For me, it theoretically is a lot fewer than for somebody in here that's 25 years old. But you don't know. I might live to 93, and the 25-year-old might live to 27. You don't know how many years you have left. So you got to spend them wisely. And also I would add that you absorb these teachings. What's out there? You take them, you internalize them, you chew them up, and then you spit them out. Don't believe them. because it's not yours. You don't know these things for yourself, so they are not yours. Until you know them for yourself, they are not yours. So you do the research, you take it into account for everything else that you're doing, but don't believe anything. If you get trapped into belief, you're dead in the water. Then you're creating a paradigm within which you expect truth to fit itself, and it will not do that. Don't create a paradigm of belief that you expect truth to adhere to. It won't do it. It has to be wide open.